Can we begin?
We're still waiting for a few people to join. Okay, a couple of more minutes. A few late this morning. We're about 15 people short.
How many? 15. My God, that's a lot. Huh?
Yeah, might have some connections possibly.
22. I had 51, 53 last night.
Yeah. Oh, here's to Thai Prabhu's joined from Los Angeles. I just send a message on the group. Just remind people that we are starting shortly.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Sacinanda, Vishana.
You know, I don't like the idea of waiting for people to come. I think we should just begin.
Okay, well, please go ahead.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we had a couple of groups still to present their conclusions from the discussion yesterday. We were talking about ISKCON's success and failures in the loving exchange. So we heard from a couple of groups, but there were two other groups who didn't make a presentation. So are some of you here who were in those groups? You could tell us what you discussed. Talasi Pran Krishna Prabhu? Were you in the group? Were you in a group? You'd like to tell us what you discussed yesterday? Is there no response at all, Krishna Keshava Prabhu?
Prabhu, did you speak yesterday? Hare Krishna. Hareshwari Mata is her hand raised. Yes, Hareshwari Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So yesterday, I'm from Group 1, so yesterday we discussed, like the different devotees shared their experiences when they were new, how the devotees, they encouraged them, like giving them prasadam, praying for them, giving gifts and love and care and everything. And also the challenges which are faced by many of us, like maybe they felt ignorant, or because sometimes what happens is, like, because of bigger groups, a leader is managing, so some people might not be able to give care or attention to every one of the devotee under him. So, and also some problems like groupism in the different temples because of like different gurus, disciples. So that also some of us face that problem. And yeah, and one more point what was discussed was that ISKCON mostly focuses on making new devotees, but then we need to focus also more on existing devotee care. Yeah, that's what we discussed yesterday.
All right, thank you. Yeah, very interesting to hear all this. Definitely, that these things are there. Sometimes we get groupism. That, oh, you're not our God brother. You're initiated by somebody else, and we don't feel the same connection with them, and they become separated. And it becomes the disciples of one guru's group, and they dominate. They have their place. They have control over certain activities in the temple, that, oh, this is all done by our God brothers and God sisters, you're from another guru, you can't do it. These kind of problems do come, neophyte devotees. So we have to constantly preach against these things. The preaching is very important, to try to unite everyone. That's why we give so much importance to the position of Srila Prabhupada, to unite the whole movement. And I appreciate also the point that sometimes we do tend to put all the emphasis on making devotees and don't put much care into looking after those people who are already devotees. However, I have seen in the last 10 years a lot of increase in the emphasis on devotee care. And more we're caring, because we're finding it very, very hard to make new devotees. It's not easy to recruit new devotees. It's much better if we take care of the old ones, take care of the ones we've got. And by taking care of the ones we've got, then naturally new people will come in. So these are important points. I appreciate you brought these things up. Thank you very much.
And we have another Mataji with us. Is there? Anandari?
Hare Krishna.
Krishna?
Yeah, yesterday, we discussed some of, I was in group 2, and now the positive ones where devotees feel encouraged, when they actually go for book distribution, and even when many of them said that when they became devotees, how they were welcomed, and those things. They were given prasadam and sweet words, those kind of things. And the challenges which were discussed, some of them were many of the communities, they they don't have that kind of devotee get together. Say for instance, if somebody falls sick and is not in good financial situation or something, so there's kind of that devotee support is lacking to give that kind of support and assistance. And another positive point which was brought in was Bhakti Vriksha, where there are less number of devotees, say like 10 to 15. So then whoever is the leader over there, he or she is in contact with the other devotees who are being preached or taken care. So it's kind of a more personal and one-to-one relationship. And another challenge which was brought in was sometimes we don't confide in that other devotee like that Gogya Makyati, which is the principle, because sometimes we have our egos and that insecurity that what if I tell this person, and what if he or she goes around and tells it to a few other people, devotees. So that kind of insecurities are there. So how to overcome them, and at the same time find that kind of friendship and solace in the other devotees, the senior devotees, so that they can open up their minds. So and it was also said that some of the centers like Chapadi, Mayapur, Vrindavan, they have that kind of system where they have where one can find equals to associate and seniors and things like that. So that kind of system may not be available in all of these concentrators. Some do have and some don't. So yeah, so those were the things which were discussed.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, devotee care is a question of how much we can care. If people look for financial support or financial backing, that can be challenging sometimes. If some people know that they can get money, they can borrow money, you can have a lot of devotees, a lot of people coming, joining our movement. So we have to be there. It's not such an easy thing to be able to give out money to people to support them financially. Of course, like during this time, during the pandemic, here in Mayapur, they're doing nicely. There were a number of people working, and they didn't have jobs anymore because of people not coming to the temple. But the Mayapur management arranged to give them prasadam every day. They arranged free prasadam for them. So, trying to do some things. Yeah, there's always constraints what we can actually do to help, how far we can go to help other people.
Yeah.
We're really not a social movement, but at the same time we do have an obligation to people who have if they've given their life, they've come to Krishna consciousness, they're working full-time as devotees, then we do have some kind of obligation to them to help them and try to maintain them. And generally we do that. There's one devotee here, I remember his wife had to have a big operation, and the devotees somehow they collected the funds and they got the money and they gave him so his wife could go to Calcutta and have the operation. And so there is quite a bit of care going on. What was your point about the Gaudiya Mat? What did you say?
No, I didn't mention anything about Gaudiya Mat.
I thought I heard you said something about Gaudiya Mat. They do something.
No, no Gaudiya Mat. They just, they were discussing like Mayapur, Vrindavan, and some other temples have communities have this kind of system where the support is there, but like not many of the ISKCON centers or community.
Yeah, Mayapur, Vrindavan, because they're, a lot of devotees are based here. But you go to a city, people are a bit more, they're not so much connected with the temple, maybe far away, and
Yes.
it's a very different situation. But being in Mayapur or Vrindavan, these are special places. This is where everyone's a devotee, and there's small places also, much easier. And the congregation's much bigger also. You've got, they're like world projects. The whole world is helping to support Mayapur. And Vrindavan also, they get a lot of support from outside Vrindavan. But other cities, everything is maintained by the people there,
Yeah.
So that's why they can do a bit more here in Mayapur and in Vrindavan.
Yeah.
Difficult situations. Okay, anyway, thank you very much for these points.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, Govinda Prabhu would like to say something.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare
Maharaj,
Krishna.
when I was at Mumbai, in ISKCON Chowpatty temple, we have this counselor and counselee system, mentor and mentee system. Even during our satsangs also, if any new devotee has got something to from either the speaker or from the counselor, we used to call them 30 minutes before the satsang starts. So any confidential matters, like suppose any clarification about the spirituality or anything about ISKCON, if they wanted to know, he used to take one-to-one sessions like that and give the proper advice. Like even Guru Maharaj, what he says, through counselor it used to come to us, and from the counselor again it used to go to the new devotees also. And wherever financial helps are required, like some devotee is from very poor financial background, and if he wanted to visit certain holy dhams during yatras and all, we used to support also by collecting some funds from our own group, and we used to help them by providing tickets and other whatever facilities are required there. We used to do that way, and even felicitation for the service providers in that satsang, like any suppose a garland maker or this fellow suppliers, those who use the chairs and all these people also used to be felicitated by the counselor, and he used to declare that this person is very much encouraged. See, in the market we pay money and we get things, but there is a loving exchange. Like he used to do the service for the pleasure of the devotees and the Lord. So other than normal garland, he used to bring very beautiful garlands for the deities also. This is what I experienced, Maharaj. I just wanted to share it with you.
All right. So thank you. Yes, we know Chowpatty has this system of mentorship, and everyone has some mentor. But there were some difficulties I saw in some other place. At least one place I know, they had a problem with the mentor system. That people came along and introduced the mentor system, and it kind of just left out the older devotees. That several older devotees were just feeling not part of the temple anymore. That, they were not involved in the mentor scheme, and everybody else is in the mentor, and it became, it can become a little bit of a problem that some people felt left out. That, they didn't, they were older devotees, and, they didn't want a mentor. They'd already been a devotee a long time, and the thought of having a mentor didn't really appeal to them. But, introducing the mentor program kind of split the tempo up a bit. And so it created some problems. So it works in some places, it doesn't work in every place. That's my point. That when you have a lot of senior devotees, then it's difficult to implement. If you've had the mentor program running from the beginning, then okay, then it's easy, it's all right, people are used to it. But to try to introduce a mentor program in a temple where you have a lot of older devotees, it's very difficult.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much for enlightening.
Thank you for also telling us about this mentor program. It's certainly nice that new devotees have a mentor, they have somebody they can go to and inquire from. It's actually important. It is important because you can't expect every disciple to be able to go personally to the spiritual master or to call up the guru every time they have a question. It would become very difficult. Some people do it, but it's not very practical. So it's certainly nice, a local temple, every temple, that they have people, saint devotees who are willing to take care and to guide. It gives also older people some responsibility, taking care of the devotees. Okay, so I think we pretty much covered that fourth verse, right? If we look at the objectives here, I think if you have your book there, the objectives, I think we've covered everything. Practice. I'll just read through the objectives from this fourth verse. We reflected on our experience of applying the loving relationships, and discussed ISKCON's successes in facilitating these exchanges, practical ways of applying the loving relationships within ISKCON, full-time and congregational members. Practical ways. Yeah, we've been speaking how to apply it. Qualification required to utilize everyone's contribution to further Krishna consciousness movement. Yeah, we spoke about the difficulties and the serious responsibility which is there. Then the importance of all devotees of applying the Dadati principle in relation to spreading, at least in relation to spending at least 50% of one's income. Yeah, we spoke about that. And discussed the relevance of the verse, Nijasiddha Krishna Prema. We also covered that verse in the beginning. Alright? So, after hearing about these loving exchanges, then we want to think more about how we would apply these loving exchanges. Of course, you can't just do it in a universal manner, treat everyone the same. Are you going to inquire confidentially from a new bhakta? Someone's a new devotee, and you've got some problem in your Krishna consciousness. Maybe it's in your family life, or maybe it's with your japa or something. Are you going to go to a new devotee and ask him to guide you? And similarly, you want to give charity. Are you going to give equal charity to everyone? Will you give everyone the same? You give everyone maybe 100 rupees or maybe 1 lakh rupees, I don't know. We definitely want to be a little discriminating about how we distribute everything when it comes to giving and when it comes to receiving also. And then also prasadam. We have to consider also young people cannot eat too much, old people cannot eat too little. Prabhupada used to tell us. And so when we were young, we could eat so much halava and pakoras and gulab jamans, and we had huge appetites. But in the old age, the body's changed. We can't do it. So there's some difference. We can't expect everyone's the same. So we're going to go on now. The next verse number 5, is speaking about how to apply these relationships. How do you generally deal with people? We will ask, maybe we can ask someone, let's ask maybe Ananda Lila Mataji, you can tell us, how do you greet a Mataji? A new Mataji, some Mataji is coming to the temple, how are you going to receive her?
Hare Krishna, welcome with folded hands, and see how the gesture is done. Maybe give a hug or something like that. But if somebody is senior devotee, if it's inside the temple, then probably not possible. But outside, maybe offer obeisances and then greet them with folded hands like that.
Right, it's going to vary, right? You're not going to go and hug everybody. Yeah. And you're not going to be falling on the ground offering obeisances everywhere also. It would be a little strange if you're in some public gathering and they see you down on the ground at somebody, So we do have to be a little careful about it. Let's ask some of the men, Prabhu, maybe Gadadhar Prabhu, you can tell us, how do you greet people?
Hare Krishna, yes, Maharaj. Is a devotee, a new devotee to the temple. So first, we have to know his background, whether he is a student or elderly person. So by that, then we can determine how we deal with them. So if students, usually I greet him with some nice talking, introducing our Krishna consciousness from a little bit scientific point of view, and then if he can quite understand about the philosophy, then we can say our Bhagavad Gita philosophy. If he is an elderly person, then usually we cannot talk much about, try to teaching them about the philosophy in the beginning, but we try to give some comfort, how we deal with them. We show our loving affection and also gratitude to an elderly person.
Okay. Would you shake hands with them?
Especially nowadays in the pandemic, I don't think so.
Nobody's shaking hands now, right? With the pandemic, right? It's not encouraged. Yeah, even in the West, people are namaste, right? Of course, when as devotees, we don't just namaste, we are Haribo, right? Haribo. Hands up in the air and greet them joyfully. Okay. So it will be different for different people, right? If you know a bit more about them, then somebody's a senior devotee, a very senior devotee. Maybe they're like a guru or a GBC. How do you greet them?
Of course, if he's senior devotees like Brahmanas, Sannyas, or even GBC, first of all, we have to fall down ourselves to give dandawat to him, and especially also mentioned in Padeshamrta, if we at that time we maybe engage in some service like deity worship or other service, then we have to stop that service for a temporary time. Then we try to greet them and give a good maybe place for sit or
Okay. Yeah. Do you embrace devotees?
Only for the some devotee that we already just close with. Yes.
That you know, wow, you have a relationship with, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. And so let's look at Rupa Goswami's verse, text number 5, and we'll just see how Rupa Goswami describes. Let me go into screen sharing here. Oh God, what's this?
Your question from His Grace Chaitanya Chandra Prasad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, as what Gadadhar Prabhu mentioned, if there is some senior devotees coming, so if some devotional service like DT worship or something, some important seva, can we continue the services or we stop for the time in the service and greet these senior devotees? What is the principle, Maharaj?
Senior devotees coming, should we stop our service? Generally, that's the custom, yeah. We'll make a minor, usually a small reception, maybe even a little kirtan to receive them. That's nice etiquette. When they're coming, you know, you come out and greet them just for a minute or two, and they'll go, usually first they want to go see the deity, go to the temple room, offer obeisances. And they may talk, not always. It depends on the person. You know, he may not be in the mood. He may say, well, I'm going to give class tonight, or I'll give class tomorrow morning. But if he's inclined, he may speak. But it's not compulsory, not necessary. But it's nice that you come outside, you be at the door or just outside the door, and you make a little kirtan to welcome him into the temple. And offer a flower garland if it's available. Maybe a prasadam garland from the deities can be given to him. Something like that. That's pretty standard etiquette. Do you do that? Sorry?
Yes, Maharaj, we follow so.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the usual program.
Maharaj, you've also got hand raised from Rajabidya Prabhu.
Okay, Rajabidya Prabhu. I'm not able to hear.
Prabhu, we can't hear your voice.
Okay, can you hear me?
That's better. That's better.
Okay, Maharaj, but please accept my humble obeisance, Maharaj. So even if we are doing the deity worship, if somebody is on the altar, a pujari, does he have to stop the deity worship and come and greet the senior devotee?
No, that's not required.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
No.
Okay, thank you.
They're worshipping the deity. They should continue the worship of the deity. I remember one time Prabhupada came to the temple and the devotee was on the altar offering arti, and Prabhupada came in and Prabhupada spoke to the devotee. Prabhupada recognized the devotee. The devotee was offering arti, but Prabhupada said, oh, how are you? I haven't seen you a long time. You know. So, but Prabhupada didn't expect that, you know, you have to stop everything and just come and... No, when you're worshipping the deity, the devotees are the servants of the deity, not that the deity is servant of the devotee. So we like to serve Krishna. That service should go on uninterrupted.
Thank you. Maharaj, can we go to Sachinandana Vishwambara Prabhu?
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Maharaj, there is a pastime of Sri Balramji when he went to Naimisharan and he saw, just forgot the name. Someone was giving a class and Balramji got offended that he didn't got up or respected Balramji. So this is a particular instance in which a senior devotee or the Lordship himself was not respected while doing some service, and Balramji got offended to such an extent that he killed him. He got released of his middle body. So just want your comment on that regarding this context what we're discussing.
Oh yes, because Lord Balaram came to Naimisharanya and what's his name was giving class. I've also Romaharshan Sutta, thank you, yeah. Romaharshan Sutta is giving class and Balaram took offense. Well, Lord Balaram considered his mission that he had come to establish religiosity and to establish the religious principles. And he thought that this Romaharshan was not actually qualified. And so he decided to remove him. And of course it was a surprise to the sages, but they understood. Lord Balaram's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even though Lord Balaram was ready to bring him back to life, the sages said, no, you're the Supreme Lord, leave it as it is, but just make some atonement for killing him. And so Lord Balaram did that. He killed that demon who was giving trouble to the sages when they performed their sacrifices. And then he went on pilgrimage and continued his pilgrimage as an atonement for killing Romaharshan. So, yeah, it's a pastime. The Lord comes to remove the impious. He saw that Romaharshan had some pride, that he did not offer respects like the others. Everyone else stood up. There were so many others there, and they all respected. Some of, at least if they didn't stand up, they bowed down or they did pranams. But Romaharshan didn't do anything, didn't acknowledge Lord Balaram at all. So Lord Balaram considered that this person, he considered his birth. First of all, he was not really a pure Brahmana. He was mixed birth. The mother was from a higher caste than the father. Mother was from a Brahmin family. Father was from Kshatriya. And so Lord Balaram decided that better to remove him. And so Lord Balaram's the Supreme Lord. We have to accept whatever he decides. We should accept. Certainly, if Lord Balaram decides Romaharshan's not fit, who are we to argue? we have to be careful not to become like Romaharshan and to neglect the Supreme Lord. In the presence of the Lord, we cannot offer respects. And we see Prabhupada coming to the temple all the time, every time, even in his elderly age or poor health, he would want to bow down and give obeisances. It's so very important. Very important. Nobody should think, I don't need to bow down. No, it's very important for us to bow down before the deities, before the Lord. Is it sufficient? You agree?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. Yeah. So, Maharaj, Ananta Vilasa Prabhu would also like to say something. If that's okay?
Yes.
Maharaj, Radhika Kishore here. Sorry, Prabhu.
Okay.
Maharaj, I just
My
have a
apologies.
question. No problem, Prabhu, sorry. Actually, Maharaj, we had a quick question. When we are supposed to greet any senior Vaishnava or some GBCs or some seniors, and when we are in the temple room, so should we greet them in front of the deities or we shouldn't? Should we pay our obeisances?
When you're in front of the deities, should we pay obeisances?
Yeah, to the seniors or the Vaishnavas, how do we greet them? By paying obeisances or just greeting them?
Well, usually the etiquette is that in front of the deities we just pay obeisances to the deities. But you may, out of spontaneous love, you may pay obeisances to your spiritual master or to a very exalted Vaishnava. But it's not required if you're in front of the deities. Because in front of the deities, we worship the deity. So, for example, in Prabhupada's time, we did Prabhupada's Guru Puja in front of the deities. And Prabhupada allowed it, although it's not really the etiquette. But Prabhupada considered that the rules and regulations are not as important as the loving devotion. The love and devotion with which the devotees offered the puja to Prabhupada was so wonderful that Prabhupada didn't want to stop it. He wanted to continue it. And he thought just simply the rule about bowing down, not bowing down before the spiritual master in front of the deity, he thought that's not very important. He wanted to encourage the devotion. So that particular time, but generally it's not required. It's not supposed to happen that we don't worship the spiritual. You know, for someone like Prabhupada, we could do it, but you know, we may not do it so much today for every spiritual teacher.
That's a very nice point, Maharaj. Thank you for sharing.
All right. Now, are you able to see my screen?
It's not shared.
No?
No.
I'm not used to this computer. I'm just trying to get used to it here. Let me see. What have I got? iPhone, iPad, Finder. I don't know.
Would you like me to, is it the slides you're going to show, Maharaj?
Yeah.
Do you want me to share them from my end?
Could you?
Yes, I can. Is it lesson 4 you want to do now, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. Lesson 4, right.
Okay, all right, I can share them from my end. And then you can just tell me when to move to the next slide.
Okay.
That helps. Just bear with me 1 second. This one, yes?
Yes, right. Okay. So we can go ahead. Yeah, just go through the revision. We've covered that. Okay, here, 3 levels of Vaishnavas. We can read that.
Would you like somebody to read that?
Please.
Yes. Can we get a volunteer to read the screen, please?
Yes.
3 levels of Vaishnavas. In order to intelligently apply the 6-fold loving reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, one must select proper persons with careful discrimination. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore advises that we should meet with the Vaishnavas in an appropriate way according to their particular status. In this verse, he tells us how to deal with 3 types of devotees: the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. Next of instruction, text 5, page 48.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Can we read text number 5? Hare Krishna?
Oh,